Now is acting political editor Sophie Mokoena, who is in Harare in Zimbabwe. Sophie, good evening to you. You've got our breaking news story, an exclusive interview with former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe that you're going to be bringing us a little later on this evening. Firstly, I suppose, how is the former president?
What I can say, he looks good, he's fine, but you can see that age has caught up with him, but he was okay. When we arrived, he welcomed all the journalists. This is how it happened. It was a short briefing to all the journalists that he invited, very few. SABC was there, and he spoke to us at length in terms of his views around what transpired last year in November when there was a transition here in this country. He characterized the events as a coup. He is saying that he's willing to speak to the current president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, to try and find a solution because he believes that President Emmerson Mnangagwa was not legitimately elected, and therefore he wants Zimbabwe to return to normalcy, particularly on issue of democracy. But we know very well that according to President Emmerson Mnangagwa, everything was followed properly and in line with the law and the constitution of this country.
So, in other words, he still sees himself as the head of state in Zimbabwe as far as he is concerned. Sophie, I just want to ask you, so from what you can ascertain, former President Robert Mugabe sees himself as the head of state of Zimbabwe, sees himself as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, for example.
Well, I couldn't hear you properly. Can you repeat your question? We're struggling with connectivity here.
All right, what I'm asking you is whether or not the former president Robert Mugabe sees himself as the de facto head of state, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And I suppose the wider or the bigger question around that is that does that not put him, I suppose you could say, in the crosshairs of the new administration?
It does, because you are aware that there's now a new leadership, there's new administration, but he feels that this was not properly done. But when I asked him in terms of the way forward, he indicated that elections are around the corner and he's hoping that the elections will resolve this. But he still feels adamant that the two must meet and they must find a solution. But the other issue that I asked President Robert Mugabe, the former president, is whether he is involved in the establishment of a new political party. He indicated that he is not, but he told me that if the new political party is going to do the right things in Zimbabwe, he will support that party. When I asked him whether he will be the candidate for the new party, a breakaway party, he indicated that no, he is not going to be a candidate. And when I asked him about his membership as the Zanu PF former leader, he indicated to me that his membership was terminated, therefore he doesn't have a political home.
That is startling news coming out of Zimbabwe. There, our acting editor there, Sophie Mokoena, with an exclusive interview, one of the first, in fact, the first televised interview with former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe, who's no longer a member of the governing Zanu PF. We will be bringing you that interview as well as a statement by the former Zimbabwean leader a little later on.